What's up, everyone? It's AG Reviews, back at it again. And a few nights ago, I got to watch Stranger Things 5, Volume 2, so let's talk about it. So far with Stranger Things Season 5, I was a pretty big fan of what we got with those first 5 episodes. I felt like they did a really good job at progressing character arcs, making the stakes feel very grand and very big. And I really was looking forward to what we were going to get with the back half of the season with these 3 episodes in Volume 2, and then the finale that we're getting next week on New Year's Eve. I have to say, overall, I did enjoy the episodes that we got here with Volume 2, these 3 episodes. But I will say it did feel a little underwhelming, and it definitely felt like it was a step down from Volume 1. I definitely enjoyed and had a lot more fun with what we got out of those first 4 episodes than I did out of these 3 episodes. And to start off with my positives for Stranger Things 5 Volume 2, I really think that these 3 episodes have some of the best character moments that we have gotten so far in this season of Stranger Things, and really Stranger Things as a whole. To start off, I really liked the interaction in this volume between Steve and Dustin. I was not a fan of kind of where they were going with those two characters in Volume 1, but I really feel like the change in the arcs here in Volume 2 and expanding on it a little bit more, I did enjoy quite a lot. That back and forth scene between Steve and Dustin, where they kind of fight and then end up making up, I really enjoyed that arc. And I really feel like that puts those two characters in a place that I really wanted them to be going into this final episode and wrapping up the show. And even though I know it has become a source of confusion and controversy, I actually really like what they did here with Jonathan and Nancy. I really enjoyed that scene where, it was confirmed by the Duffer Brothers they did break up. I pretty much understood that, while watching the scene. I can't understand, though, why people might have been a little bit confused with the way that it plays out. It was just a really good term breakup and between two characters that thought they were going to die. But I really did enjoy that scene. I have not been the biggest fan of the Nancy and Jonathan relationship. I do think it's one of the weaker ones of the show. And I feel like it's two characters that really have been on a path of realizing and accepting the fact that they're just not meant to be together. Their love really stems from a lot of the trauma that they have experienced with this whole adventure, and I really enjoyed seeing them finally come to terms with that, and still embracing one another, but also understanding and still having love for one another, but also understanding that they're not really meant for each other and they aren't gonna have a long-term thing. The whole concept of Jonathan wanting to propose to Nancy, I thought was a terrible idea and made absolutely no sense. And it was kind of refreshing for someone who had those thoughts to see him essentially realize that himself as a character. So I really felt like that was a heartwarming scene and one that was played very well. I also really still like what they're doing here with Will. I do feel like this is the best season that Will has had as a character. Really of the entire show. I mean, you could say season 1, but he didn't really have a character arc there. Here, I think his arc of gaining powers, self acceptance, is something that is really heartwarming. To watch and to kind of watch him fully realize himself and understand that it's not all about Mike and it's more about him and accepting himself. And I really felt like that was fully encapsulated, obviously, with the scene from, I think it was episode 5, where he taps back into the Hind Hive and takes over Vecna's body to help Max and Holly. I thought that was such a great scene when he took that moment over and helped them escape. And I did feel like it was a good subversion of expectations because obviously the run part we had saw in the trailer, but they had done some editing to kind of mask what was really going on there. So once you get that moment, it just feels really satisfying. And it just feels like a moment where Will is really stepping into his own character. Obviously, too, we have the scene at, towards the end of episode 7 where he finally does come out. This has been something that has been brewing over these 5 seasons of television. And I do feel like the scene was handled very well. Some acting issues I have a little bit with Noah Schnapp. He's been a little bit inconsistent, I think, in his performance as an actor this season. We'll get to that a little bit later. But overall, I do think what they did with Will here did work, even though I had a couple of issues with how they played out the story in some of these scenes. I still think that Will is having the best season that he has had as a character, which I really appreciate, and that's what I appreciated about Volume 1. And then to kind of wrap up all of my positives when it comes to like the character developments and character interactions, the last one that I really enjoyed was Episode 6, Escape from Comatose. Max, that whole entire sequence of her coming back, her interactions with Holly, the reunion between her and Lucas, that really brought out a lot of emotions for me. Like I said, I think that's really the strong suit in these 3 episodes is the character moments that they have here. We're gonna get into like what else didn't work about it, but for me, I think the character moments in these 3 episodes are really, really strong, and I think they're what carry these 3 episodes into me still enjoying them and still thinking they are good episodes of television, even though there are some other issues, that I had with this season. And I think that's perfectly encapsulated with Max coming back, her reunion with Lucas. I do think that they are the best portrayed couple of this show, and I feel like that really shined through in that scene. And, how she comes back with really not needing necessarily the song, but it was more about having that connection with Lucas. I thought that was a really good way to visualize how strong the relationship is and how much it works. So yeah, overall, character moments, character arcs here, I felt like it was very strong. I felt like Volume 1 had a little bit more of a balance between like the action and the character development. This was way more stronger on the character development portion of it, and I felt like that's what really stood out and really worked well for these 3 episodes. And then to kind of finish off my positives on the season, I did like the lore that was established here about the Upside Down. I know the Duffer Brothers had kind of talked about before this season that we were going to get answers on what the Upside Down is, where it comes from, and that was a little that made me a little bit nervous before this season, because a part of me felt like there wasn't really anything that needed to be explored as to like where the Upside Down came from. But now that we have gotten the revelation about it basically being a black hole and a bridge between Dimension X or the Abyss, whatever you want to call it, and the real world, I kind of think that is a good setup to go into the finale with and have, the stakes kind of all out there, all the information out there. And I think it worked. I don't think it was anything that like blew my mind. Part of me thinks that the Duffer Brothers maybe talked it up a little bit too much, and that might have been where some of the expectations in this volume 2 have been coming from. But I will say that I didn't mind that piece of lore. I don't think it ruins the lore. I don't think it necessarily blows anything away or recontextualizes the show or anything like that. But I didn't mind it there. And then when it comes to lore, I was a little bit disappointed, and we can kind of start moving into my mixed and negative aspects of the season. I was a little bit disappointed with them kind of giving us little nuggets of what happened with Henry and his background in the cave, but not fully revealing that. Obviously, if you're a fan of Stranger Things, you do know of the play that has been going on in London and New York for quite some time. That kind of gives you a little bit of backstory on Henry and the characters within the Stranger Things universe, and they don't fully reveal things in that play. I haven't seen it, but I do know what happens in the play. So I thought we were going to fill in those gaps a little bit more here in this season. And now that we're done with Volume 2 and all we have left is this 2-hour finale, I'm a little confused as to, what was established and what was said in that play versus what we've already gotten here, and whether or not we're really going to get answers about that. So that was a little bit weird. That's more of a mixed thing, really. I want to see how it plays out first before I decide if it's a straight up negative on it, but I thought that was a little bit weird that we didn't fully get into that and fully explore those ideas. But now I want to get into some of the things that I don't think worked about these 3 episodes in Volume 2, and kind of what has been a little bit of an issue for me now for the entire season, and kind of retroactively adds this problem a little bit to Volume 1 as well. It feels to me like the stakes are not where they should be for a final season going into the final episode of this show. I feel like season 4, for all of its faults, like that's not my favorite season. I think I ranked it third, third of the first 4 seasons when I did my ranking. Of all the faults of that season, I think the like grand epicness, the scale, the stakes, all kind of felt more like a final season than what season 5 has felt like to me. And there is one scene in particular in Stranger Things 5 that I think encapsulates that the best. And it is the scene where Max is ready to get out of the trans after being there for 2 years, and she stops to have this conversation with Holly for 20 minutes. Because that scene was playing out like, we have to go, we have a time crunch, we have to get out of here. And then the characters themselves stop and take 20 minutes when we're supposed to be going forward, like there's a ticking clock here. And I didn't like that. I don't like that you're telling me through dialogue in this show that there are such grand stakes. We could die any moment. Vecna is very close to completing his plan and winning. And then the characters in those moments take time to basically confirm through what they're doing in the story that that's actually not true. We can just stop and have a conversation for 20 minutes when we're supposed to be getting to these points. And I also felt that way with the scene with Will coming out. And again, I think the scene, if you bottle the scene of when he came out, it felt earned. It felt like it was well done. But when you put it in the whole context of the episode and what's going on, him having to literally stop before we go on this mission when we're on the day that we think that Vecna's plan is going to start, to then take 15 to 20 minutes to come out and, reveal himself to be gay, which we've all known, and which, the characters, I believe, have known. They don't confirm that or anything like that. And again, it was a heartwarming moment, but it just goes to show that when it comes to the writing of the show, the stakes aren't really where they're supposed to be in a final season going into a final episode. And that's just a problem for me. And I would have liked to have felt the urgency more. I mean, we're in the final season here. Like, you had season 4, which was a very bloated season, where that was supposed to be set up, where we were setting up these storylines and getting this all in place for season 5 to be the payoff. But it feels like now that we're in season 5, we're just continuing to get more payoff. Not payoff, get more setup. And now we're left with 2 hours and 8 minutes or 6 minutes, whatever the runtime is for the finale, to wrap everything up. And now there's reports out there, and there has been for a little while now, that essentially the finale will also have like a 40-minute epilogue. So that means that basically we're only getting like an hour and 20 of actual episode here to resolve all of these things. And I don't know if that's enough time. That's got me very worried going into this finale. And I'm more worried, I think, now about whether or not they're gonna stick the landing here with this finale than I was after Volume 1. I was more confident after Volume 1 than I am now with Volume 2. And like I talked about before in my Volume 1 review and then here today, it's like with Volume 1, I felt like they struck a really good balance of having high stakes, high action, mixed with the character moments and the character arcs going on different paths and heading towards their inevitable conclusions. Volume 2 only had those character moments, which again, I really appreciated and did make these episodes at least enjoyable. They didn't make them completely terrible like some people are saying. The internet reaction, I think, to these 3 episodes have been ridiculous. I saw that episode 7 is rated lower now than the Lost Sister episode from season 2. What are we doing here, guys? This is ridiculous. There's no world that exists where that episode, The Bridge, is way worse than the Lost Sister. I'm sorry. It's not even on the same level. Like, what are we talking about here? But I do think that a lot of the stakes being lessened and it not feeling like we are inevitably rolling towards the finale and towards an epic conclusion has hurt this season of television specifically. And then now we could talk about that too. There is reports coming out that there was a lot of cuts that were done to Volume 2, and a lot of plot points that were missing. Like, there were supposedly points in time where, like, Elle and Mike were supposed to go help Will and Max get out of whatever it's called, the place where Vecna keeps them. And that can kind of be explained as to why Elle doesn't have a huge reaction once Max is back. That's why Max already knows about Hopper, and stuff like that. So I just wonder why, with all the issues I had with season 4, one of them being that it was bloated, why you decided to give all of that runtime to season 4 and then not give enough runtime for season 5 to fully go through with these plots and give us that balance that we had in Volume 1. The Duffer Brothers had finished editing and everything Volume 1 much earlier in the process, obviously, because those episodes came first. So it makes me wonder that they did episode 1 or Volume 1, kind of saw some of the reactions and decided to change it up and cut some stuff. And it might have been Netflix's decision. It's not necessarily the Duffer Brothers. But I think that they did, if that's true, right? This is not confirmed, right, by anyone. But if they did cut out a lot from Volume 2, I think they did themselves a disservice, because I just don't feel the weight of the situation that we're going into here in this final episode. And now I'm wondering if this final episode, even though it is basically a movie, it's 2 hours long, is it going to be enough time to properly finish the story and close out this show? And then I also do want to say, I do feel like some of the acting was not exactly the best here. I feel like certain scenes with Will and Noah Schnapp, that there were moments that he does really, really well, and then other moments it just feels like he's honing it in. And I feel the same way about Eleven, too. I feel like she's taken quite the back seat, too, as a character from, like, a story perspective this season, which I'm not really a fan of. And I feel like maybe that's why she's a little bit checked out and isn't giving the best performance as 11. The addition of Callie, too, I think has been pretty much a waste of time. I think they only really brought her in to kind of explain what's going on with the military plot. The military plot, that's another thing, too. Not a huge fan of that. I don't think it's really worked all that well. It feels weird, too, because it's kind of similar to what we got with Welcome to Derry recently, which was, sandwiched in between Volume 1 and Volume 2, so that felt a little bit weird, I will say that. And, yeah, so overall, I did enjoy these 3 episodes. I don't think they're bad. I think that the hyperbole around these 3 episodes has been very much overstated and has been exaggerated in how bad they are, quote unquote. But I do think this was a bit of a step down, for sure, from Volume 1. I definitely enjoyed those episodes a lot more. And it has made me quite nervous for what we're going to get here in this final episode and whether or not they're going to be able to wrap this up in a satisfying way. So that's pretty much all my thoughts on Volume 2 of Stranger Things. Obviously we only have to wait a week, and at this point it's Sunday, so I only really have to wait about 4 days to get, those answers and find out what happens. So, I'm hoping they can do it, despite all of the issues I think I had with Volume 2. I still enjoyed these episodes. I don't think they were bad. But I hope we can get something a little bit better for the finale, so it feels a little bit more like a satisfying conclusion. So that's pretty much it for me, guys. I am going to be going on Darren's page tonight to... we're doing a live stream, essentially, to spoiler discuss everything with a panel of people, which I always enjoy doing, because then I kind of get other people's perspectives as well. So I'll be posting that over on my YouTube page, AG Reviews. I'll make a post with the link on there. Go subscribe to Darren, though, too. He's Darren Sanctuary over on YouTube. He puts out a lot of great stuff, and we collaborate pretty frequently. So, if you like my content, definitely subscribe to him over there. And that'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern, so in a couple hours here, by the time you're watching this. You might see this after I have already done the live stream, so you can just check out my YouTube. It'll have the replay and everything there for it. But besides that, comment below. Let me know what you guys thought of Volume 2. Did you not like it at all? Because, like I said, I've seen things all over the place. I've seen people who love these episodes. I've seen people who said, yeah, like me, kind of in the middle, where they think it was good, but there was definitely some issues. And then people who were just outright hating this volume and saying that this ruined the season and ruined the show. I'm not there, but if that's how you feel, just go ahead and comment below. Let me know. Let's talk about this show. 1 week left. It's a very major show, so let's have some conversations about it before it's gone. And that's pretty much it for me, guys. Everyone, have a great night.